Hello and good evening, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
You're watching Consider This, the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Now, around the world, young people have taken part in remarkable political and social mobilization in the past year. They have participated in global climate change strikes and led protests against the ruling elite, corruption and inequality in countries such as Algeria, Sudan, Tunisia, Iraq and even Libya. However, many young people frequently think that their messages are devalued or ignored and that they can be excluded from decision-making processes. Now, tonight on Consider This, we will be speaking to two youth leaders. They're going to be joining us on the show to help us better understand the lived realities of young people today, including their particular challenges, the limits of their agency, and the support structures available to them. Shortly, we'll hear from Undi Sabah, which is a campaign to encourage and empower Sabahan youths to participate in democracy. But first, in the studio, we have with us Farhan Amran. He is with Demokrat University Malaya. Farhan, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, if I may begin with something that's been in the news recently, Viviana Musibin, now practically a household name with all the news coverage on her. This issue has really brought a lot of attention to the digital divide among young people in different parts of Malaysia, and that's in terms of access to the internet and quality connection. But what I also find particularly interesting is that not all young people today are digital natives. Inequality hugely limits their experiences of technology. So I want you to help us think about the lived realities of young people today, particularly university students, with this regard.
Well, I think it's a very huge slap to our face, actually, because we didn't expect the Deputy Minister to really point out something that is very obvious. It's a collective decision made by all, especially student union and student fronts, that this must be addressed carefully because it involves, like you said, digital divide. In Sabah, especially, we've been addressing these issues long before Viviana's issues arise. But it seems that there's no much action that can be taken. So I think through the Viviana's issue that has raised, and then through, thank God, the Deputy Minister's silly comments about it and silly efforts to make things right, like he said, it really gave us a huge opportunity to highlight that, hey, there is something happening.
Farhan, when you talk about student groups trying to articulate their interests, who do they address it to? Is it to the universities, the particular universities they're in? Is it to government? Is it state government, federal government? Who do you think is the most effective institution to take on your concerns?
Yeah, I think it's very obvious that our anger and our dissatisfaction was directed towards the government, because the government should have been aware of this problem, because this problem does not happen in 1 year. It has been happening for the past decades. Sabah and Sarawak, and also some parts in Semenanjung, also had very similar problems, but they are busy addressing something that is not right. That is very not right. They've been busy politicking. In fact, actually, this is not just about digital divide. There are a lot of other issues that needs to be addressed. But yeah, the government seems to be focusing on things that doesn't matter, in my perspective.
Okay. If I could just stay on this topic about the digital divide, and I think what's interesting is that it's not just in different parts of Malaysia, rural or urban. Within, say, University Malaya, I'm sure there are students who face difficulties, or there is a digital divide within the same university based on economic inequality. Sure. Is that something that you've noticed or observed?
Yeah, it's true. We had friends, of course, in University Malaya, almost 40% of us is B40s. They don't have much resources. They at least will have phone, but they're not, in a way, will have the capacity to do a lot of things with digital devices, such as laptops. We know friends who doesn't have laptops. We initiated the programs to contribute laptops. We funded some of the movement to really give everyone an opportunity to have a better digital approach.
You know, there's over the years we've also heard stories about just something as basic as nutrition. I'm going back to 2016. The Muslim Volunteer Malaysia did a survey they said 3/4 of university students weren't eating enough. There was also a suspended meals program targeting underprivileged undergraduates in UITM. In 2019, the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister extended Food Bank Malaysia to university campuses. I mean, this seems to be extraordinary. What is it? Is it bad management of money? Because people will say, oh, you get your PTPT and loan, and then you spend it on all these other things about not food. What's going on?
But I think, we received a lot of comments from mostly the publics about how students are not managing their financial properly. But in fact, you have to understand, most of the universities are placed in urban areas, and the living cost there is not low, it's high. And at the same time, you have to think about it's not enough, basically. So the approach taken by KPDN, KK, and also HEP, the Student Affairs Division, they did a very good job in addressing this issue. But like I said previously, UM per se, I mean all the IPTAs, it's close to 40% of us, from all of us are B40s. They don't have time, they don't have enough money to eat. We did our own initiatives of doing, giving foods and so on, but that's not enough. There will never be enough just to give foods.
I can imagine that, there's just so much to grapple with being a young person, say, in university today. You're thinking about your studies, you're thinking about money management, trying to the digital divide, the malnutrition. What are young people talking about today? Are they talking about the politics of the day? Are they talking about current affairs? Or are they just focused on trying to survive all of these inequalities?
And who do they blame?
As much as we say, politics is the only way for us to change this matter, but the reality is, all of us are trying to survive. We need food on the table. We need education, of course. We need something that is realistic. Hoping to politicians alone, it will never be enough. So that's why we have students, especially those who are from B40s, who's been doing part-time jobs and then same time studies, cover their welfare fees, cover their fees, education fees. It's horrible, I think. But at the end of the day, there must be something that they have to talk about. And of course, for the past 2-3 months, I think, after all the ruckus happened inside the parliament, the ruckus happened inside our political spectrum, the youngsters, especially students, are really focused on what is the government doing.
I definitely want to continue this conversation, particularly about the hashtag Masa Kita, particularly about the Muda political party. But we're going to take a quick break, and after this, we're going to cross to Sabah and speak with Shaan of Undi, Sabah, to find out the particular challenges of youth in the territory. So stay tuned to consider this. Watching Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, with me is Sharaad Kuttan. Tonight we're discussing the lived realities of youth today and the intersection with inequalities in education, employment and democratic participation. Joining us on the show right now we have from Sabah, Shaan. He's the project coordinator of Undi, Sabah, which is a campaign to encourage and empower Sabahan youth to participate in democracy. Shaan, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If I may begin with the Viviana Mosibin issue, I'm wondering how that's been discussed on the ground among youth in Sabah. Is it resonating? What are the conversations that are being had?
Yeah, so for Viviana, basically everyone looks up to her in Sabah because she goes to an extra mile to actually get education, which is the sad reality of how a lot of people in Sabah is in terms of internet access. There's a recent research story recently that shows that I think more than 50% of Sabahan students don't have access to internet. So by Viviana climbing a tree to actually get internet access, it gives it gives these people, especially in political parties, sort of accountability of the sad reality of what students have to go through. And when the sudden statement made by the minister, it was really a shock. I mean, she's just a 17 or I'm not sure 17-year-old or 18-year-old girl, and you're trying to actually do that to her. And the thing about Sabahans is we're really united in per se, that when you come for one of us, we're actually very united. So I think you can see on social media, Twitter, Facebook, a lot of people are with Viviana, not only in Sabah, but the whole Malaysia itself.
Shaan, I want to ask you how people, they're taking that outrage, you mentioned it, people are united, but what are they united against? Are they blaming the federal government? Are they blaming an individual politician or politicians, as it may be? Are they looking at the state government and saying, what are the failures of the state government to provide some sort of bridge towards, over the digital divide? Who are they blaming, and what do they want to do in order to correct the situation?
Sure. So it's quite complicated. There's few people who are blaming the federal government. There's few people who are blaming the state government as well, and there's few people who are blaming only like on specific politicians. But at the end of the day, the fact is we're mad because of the fact that instead of trying to talk on how to fix the infrastructure or to increase infrastructure in Sabah, they're actually pitting against Viviana Mosidin, calling her a liar and calling her out on all this stuff. So that's one thing that we're really standing for, which is to actually show that, instead of talking bad, instead of calling her a liar, why don't you just come down to Sabah and see how the lives of us are, like,
to see for themselves, right? Okay, yeah. Shaan, what does the Sabah Bangkit campaign signal to you then?
It's a really, really nice campaign. So basically, Sabah Bangkit is sort of, it's like a music video or a song, but it's more than just a song. It's an empowerment song that brings among these influencers, Sabah influencers, such as Marsha Milan, Velvet, and also Rich, and also MK Click. This is sort of like a thing for us youth, because most of the times, especially youth in Sabah, we always feel undermined. We always feel that, okay, we don't have a voice to talk. We should just stick to the norm. And because we're so out of reach of all these news and access, we feel such demotivated. But then when Sabah Bangkit came over, it shows that, okay, you see, influencers have taken this campaign, have shown this interest in empowering youth. So if social influencers can do this, then other Sabahan youths can do this as well. And if you actually see the music video, it actually starts with a really, really nice rendition of the Sabah Tanah Airku, which is our state song, yeah.
Okay, Shaan, so again, Bangkit, rise up against who? Is it against old people like me, or is it against the situation? What is the analysis that lies behind the slogan?
Okay, I can't say per se, because I'm directly not involved in Sabah Bangkit. But in terms of my opinion, I think it's more towards youth being undermined by old-style politicians. The way with party hopping, the way with how suddenly amidst COVID-19, there's suddenly like a shift in the election mood. Like suddenly there's a snap election amongst COVID-19. Like, come on, who does that? So it's kind of a way that we're kind of wanting to show that, okay, the youth are listening, the youth are here. So if you want to create sort of like a political shift, right? The youth will make you accountable. So I think that's more of what Sabah Bangkit is, but I cannot say per se because I'm not involved directly in it.
Okay, you talked a little bit about the snap elections during this time of a pandemic. How are young people digesting that turmoil in Sabah? Is there an anger towards this, or is there a kind of ownership that this is our time to be heard?
There's basically two youths, which is like based in Sabah and also those in Semenanjung, in Peninsula, sorry. Those in Sabah itself, we feel, most youths feel that the snap election is proper because of the the party hopping issue. As in, like, okay, you're gonna party hop, let us vote back. Give the accountability back to the people itself. We want to see if you want to vote you again to represent our constituency. And a lot of the youth are willing to go to vote basically in Sabah, but it's a different issue when it goes towards youths who are residing in Peninsula because of the rising ticket prices and also the risk of getting COVID-19. And that's because the thing is, there's quite a sentiment that youths are thinking that, okay, why should we vote? Because if we vote and they're going to party hop again, we're going to party hop again. There's no use for us to vote. So I heard a lot of sentiments among my friends and also family members about that. But the thing is, I just want to say it out there that voting is basically your right. It's basically something that you should do. It's only once in a lifetime. And then, like, come on, it's like, when else can we have? Like, this is an election. It doesn't happen that often. And then it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity to actually come back. So I really hope that if you have the money and if you are willing to go back to vote, just go back and vote.
Shaan, what about the fact that while the Constitution now allows for people aged 18 to vote, I don't think this electoral cycle will include a lot of young people. Are they angry that they have been effectively disenfranchised? Challenges are there to them actually participating in this next snap election?
Yeah, they are angry. I mean, in Undi Sabah itself, I think 40% of our members are below the age of 21, which means they can't actually vote. But what they do is they actually join organizations such as Undi Sabah to actually give sort of like, because they can't vote, what they can do is trying to improve this political literacy among those who can vote, to get them accountable, to help them do research or actually produce infographics and webinars so that people can know what is right and what is wrong, which one they should vote according to their own stand. But then the thing is, in Sabah itself, even though you're above the age of 21, I believe that if you're registered to vote, if you're a registered voter, that they should go to vote as well. And this is what those below the age of 21 who can't vote want to tell them, that we can't vote, so vote for us.
Well, Shaan, thank you so much for speaking with us and all the best with all the good work that you're doing with Undi Sabah. Now we're going to take a quick break here on Consider This, but we'll be back with more, so stay tuned. Hi, thanks so much for staying with Sharaad and I on Consider This. Let's come back to our guest in the studio tonight, Farhan Amran of Demokrat University Malaya. So, Farhan, you heard our conversation with Shaan a little bit earlier, and as I understand it, you are also involved in the Sabah Bangkit conversation, that campaign.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit? Do you have anything you'd like to add on or respond to what Shaan said?
Yeah, I think it's all about how do you respond to it. First of all, I'm not involved in Sabah Bangkit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Sabah Millet.
Yeah, it's
Sabah
Pulang
Pulang
Mengundi
Memilih.
Sabah.
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
It's Pulang Mengundi Sabah. It's a group of young activists, students mostly, that has an aspirations for everyone who is not able to go back home, to go back to Sabah, to just go back and then vote. Because, just like what Shaan said just now, there are youngsters who feel like, oh, why do I have to vote? Because these people, these politicians will hop to another party within their interests. But I think, again, I echo what he said. It's very pertinent that we understand that voting is our right. And then not everyone is privileged to have their right to vote. So what we are doing is trying to send them back. Maybe Undi Sabah and Sabah Bangkit is more onto the advocacy part. We're doing the realistic part is to send that back home.
But in terms of the actual electoral game, right?
Yeah.
To be of any kind of significant, or to have any significant impact, you'd have to send huge numbers of people back, and that would be tremendous in terms of cost. I mean, when you think about it, is this campaign more of a gesture, more symbolic than it is in terms of affecting real political change?
Of course, we would want to send as many people as we can. But at the end of the day, because we depends on crowdfund, we really depends on crowdfunds, and then we just want to send them back home. And at the same time, I think it's a message, it is a clear message that the youth is coming. The youth is very aware of the current political situations and the current political climate that is very devastating to see. And then we want to start something to say to these people out there, hey, we are here, we are trying to show you that we care about this country's politics.
Can I get you to elaborate on that? What exactly do young people want out of the political system?
Basically, it's a new kind of politics. We have been talking about pembaharuan politik for the past 10 years. It has been a fourth wave of pembaharuan politik. This one is the fourth wave. And people get sick of it, to be very honest. People get sick of pembaharuan politik per se.
Okay.
But what we are trying to highlight now is a new structure of politics. We get rid of this old practice politics, not just politicians. We have to define what muda is. Muda is not just age, is how you see politics.
So what is it? Is it a representation? Is it a change in policy? Is it a change in culture?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we are going against the norm, going against the culture because we are bringing new things on the table. But at the end of the day, I think it's a must. I think this is the very correct time for us to show to the world and also to the people in this country that youth can lead.
Okay, so Farhan, I know there's a debate between the question of whether this should be a movement, more cultural and social and political, and then the people who say we need a vehicle, a strong vehicle like a political party. Where do you stand on that?
Neutral point. Of course, I've been negotiating and also provide opinions on that matter. The initial thought was about doing a movement and then advocates. Make sure all people in this country, not only the young people, to be fiery, but also everyone in this country. But at the end of the day, in my perspective, the quickest way to bring a change in this country is through politics. And this is a very, some people might say it's naive, but at the end of the day, policy-wise, how do you change the culture in this country depends on whether you have the power inside the country. Not only power, but have a say. So let's say the parliament. For example, when you want to make policies, you need to be there. Just adding some pressure from external pressure, like what the NGOs has been doing, it's useful. But for a long run, if these old politics will continue to be in play, it will be very devastating to see.
So if I may echo something that Shaan said, Shaan brought up there's a certain level of frustration, disenchantment with, with the old political system. I'm wondering, are you and your cohorts optimistic about the future, about change, particularly since you're coming into, the working world at a time of, an economic recession, in the age of a pandemic? Are you optimistic for change?
Yeah, of course, I'm very optimistic that we need something that can drive us forward. But at the same time, I cannot deny that as a student myself, I am quite worried about what is this, what can we offer to this country. But at the end of the day, I think changes is very important. No matter political changes or how do you see the structure of our country. But right now, with all the things you mentioned about the economic recession and so on, yeah, it worries us so much. And we need change.
Yeah, can I ask you, do you see, I know traditional politicians come in for a lot of criticism,
sure,
but they're not necessarily in a monolithic block, right? And there are differences. Do you see potential allies in the block of traditional politicians that Masa Kita and Muda as a party, when it's formed, can work with?
Again, as a neutral individuals, I think the question about allies should be asked after the party is formed. Students per se has been contributing to their opinions. We just want this to be right because we see this as not only our hope, but our only chance to really break the barrier of all politicians, all politics. So, yeah, I think...
What do you dislike most about old politics? What exactly is it?
How people are undermined just because of their age. That is very clear. Okay. That is very...
Is that cultural? This I came across this term, adult territoriality.
Yeah.
And, I'm wondering whether that's cultural to an Asian society, that we respect our elders.
Yeah, you're not being respectful.
To the
older people,
people. Yeah, that's part of it. So, but right now, like I said, we are trying to advocate for changes. It will be hard for the first two steps, but at the end of the day, we understand that the movement towards building a political party, a youth-led, youth-driven, not youth party, by the way, a youth-led, it will take some time.
Very quickly, what does the youth-led party represent to you when you say, make that distinction that it's youth-led?
Yeah, I think it brings us hope, and then it brings us something that, okay, I can rely on this.
Okay, to see someone young leading, is that's representative of you.
Because they are in touch with the reality. Just like one Shaan said just now, some of the politicians are out of touch with the reality. I think most of the leaders, I hope the leaders inside the party that we've been discussing will be in touch with reality and then see, hey, there is a problem that we need to fix. instead of busy politicking.
Farhan, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. I really appreciate you joining us in the
Wonderful,
studio.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have on this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Thank you so much for watching, and from all of us here at Astro AWANI, happy Malaysia Day.